Hi everybody, and welcome back to my videos, whether you are watching on YouTube or on Rumble, whichever one you are watching it on. So, in this video, I'm going to talk about something probably controversial. So, rumor has it that Derek Chauvin is getting pardoned. Rumors. And I don't know where that rumor started or how that rumor got started. Okay, so this is on Twitter. X. Okay, so Derek Chauvin pardon rumors stir Minneapolis. Minneapolis and state leaders are reportedly preparing for the potential federation pardon of Derek Chauvin by President Trump. This action would only affect Chauvin's federal sentence of 21 years, not the state conviction of 22.5 years for the murder of George Floyd. Discussions around the pardon have reignited debate about the cause of Floyd's death, though official reports confirm his death was ruled a homicide due to police restraint, not an overdose. I am reading what the paragraph about it says, by the way. If you go to Twitter and read that and read that's what that paragraph said. Now, it's going on 5 years since it happened. 5 years since George Floyd died at the end of the month. I don't remember the exact date. I think it was around the 25th or something. I have to look it up. But I know it's going on 5 years since it happened. Okay. I'm going to give my thoughts on that. And, okay, here it goes. Based on that right there, it sounds like a pardon wouldn't do any good. Again, these rumors have not been confirmed, and it actually seems like the pardon wouldn't do Chauvin any good right now. So there would be no point in pardoning him right now, because he would still have to serve, well, about 20 more years or something like that. Anyways, so I think something else should be done instead. Okay? Now then, here it goes. Oh boy, this is going to be a very hot take. So here is my thoughts on the George Floyd incident. I believe that he died from a drug overdose. Okay? Not the knee. In fact, the knee was on the back of his neck. Okay? Like, there was no way that it could have choked him. Okay? There was just no way. Also, now the initial, what I find interesting is that that somebody's random video that they took from a cell phone probably shows a bad angle, that shows an angle that made it look like that Derek's knee was choking him or something. But if you watch the body cam footage, which strangely didn't come out till about 3 months later, I don't know why it took that long to release the body cam footage. Because by that time, most people had already made up their mind about Derek Chauvin, and most people who are against Derek Chauvin being pardoned and they want him to stay in prison, they have not seen the body cam footage. I have seen the body cam footage, and in that body cam footage, you can see George Floyd sitting in the back of the police car, saying, "I can't breathe, I can't breathe." And he's, in fact, the whole time he's there, like throughout the entire body cam footage, he seems to be very scared, like he's panicking, like or something other, like he's afraid for something other. Throughout the entire video, like he's having anxiety. So he's evidently on, so if he was on drugs, then that might have had something to do with it. And he died with drugs, because otherwise, what was preventing him? Just think about something. If in that body cam, in that video that was taken, that showed that angle, and you could hear George Floyd saying, "I can't breathe." They're trying to use his statement, "I can't breathe," as evidence that he's being suffocated. And yet, body cam footage shows George Floyd sitting in the police car, saying, "I can't breathe, I can't breathe," moments before the kneeling incident. Now, the guy's on drugs. Apparently he has a bit of a criminal history. He seems to be having a panic attack. Under those circumstances, it's no wonder he wasn't taken seriously when he said, "I can't breathe." Especially if he was on drugs, because they might have figured that, okay, just taking to jail in the night in jail, he would wear off or something. So, he's over there saying, "I can't breathe," while sitting in the back of a police car. Then, for some reason, I don't remember what the exact reasoning was. He was on the ground with Derek's knee on him. Now, whatever reasoning that was, I don't know anything about that. The knee had nothing. Derek Chauvin's knee on George Floyd had nothing to do with his death, and I believe that any evidence saying otherwise has been falsified, because this trial, that right there, was highly politicized. Okay? Because almost every single time a black person is killed by a cop, the mainstream media reports it as if it was a racially motivated murder, even if it later turns out the cop was also black, before any facts come out. And then BLM always protest the death of a black person when they are killed by a cop before any facts are out. They act like every time a cop kills a black person, that it was racially motivated murder, even if the cop was also black. Which in BLM's case, I don't know if they ever investigated and looked into that. All they hear was a black person was killed by a cop. Let's go protest. Instead of looking at all the facts, what was the circumstances, what was the context, what was happening. Because if you want to protest police brutality, you have to acknowledge that not everything is police brutality. Not everything is murder. Not everything is empty. You have to look at that and wait till all the facts are out before you want, and then decide to protest against it. Okay? You can't treat every single time a black person is killed by a cop like it's racially motivated murder, because that's not always the case. Okay? That is not always the case. You have to look at each individual circumstance. What was the context? Okay, and many narratives that's pushed by the mainstream media was later debunked. Okay, so So, yeah. So, George Floyd's death sparked a major protest in 2020 nationwide. What apparently is being called the Summer of Love. Although I do not know why they call it that. I didn't even know that it was called that until recently. I don't know if I heard it referred to as that at the time that it happened. That's interesting. But nonetheless, this incident with George Floyd ended up becoming very politicized. A very hot button topic. Derek Chauvin basically got railroaded. Just think about something. In a normal circumstance, whenever there's a report like a shooting or a criminal activity or whatever, the mainstream media reports it differently and uses the word alleged or allegedly. Oh, this person allegedly does this. Or this person was accused of that. Apparently they are required to say those things to avoid slander lawsuits or something, even when there's video footage. Of course, that could also be because in this day and age, video footage can be manipulated and edited and used out of context to paint someone in a negative light. So that could be the reasoning for that. So I guess that's fair enough. But nonetheless, whenever they reported on the George Floyd incident, they did not use the word alleged or allegedly. They instead started painting Derek Chauvin as some kind of racist murderer or something other. Like, oh, this was racially motivated murder. He is a terrible person. He is a racist. He is a murderer. He killed an innocent black man. Never mind that Derek Chauvin had a criminal history. Not Derek Chauvin. George Floyd had a criminal history and actually overdosed on drugs. And I believe that any autopsy report that shows otherwise was falsified given the political climate at the time. And there was absolutely no way that he would have gotten a fair trial because that incident became nationwide news. Okay? Nationwide news, if not global. Okay? Everybody knew about it. Everybody was talking about it for months by the time this even went to trial. There was no way you was going to find an unbiased jury. There was just no way. It is impossible at that. Also, doing some research, I found out that Tim Walz, who Kamala Harris chose as her vice president, and he would have been vice president if Kamala had won the election. Anyways, I found out that he was governor, that he's governor of Minnesota. I knew that he was governor of a state, I just forgot which one. So he was, I guess he was governor at that time also, during the George Floyd incident. So, just think about that. So, all the charges against Derek Chauvin was racially motivated by Democrats, the left, and it happened in a blue state, a state that is run by Democrats, in a city that is run by Democrats. And BLM, I think it was threatening violence and riots if Derek Chauvin was not convicted. Okay? And there was also the possibility that if Derek Chauvin, I don't know why I keep saying George Floyd, that if Derek Chauvin ever does get released, if it does get overturned somehow, that right there will cause another riot in the streets. And it's a repeat of 2020, December 2020, what they call the Summer of Love. I don't know why it's called that. Is that supposed to be like ironic or something? Like I don't understand it. Yeah, I don't understand why they call it the Summer of Love. Because it's, I mean, nothing about that was actually love. Without the riots and all that stuff. The peaceful protest. Oh boy, and that also took place during COVID. So it's kind of weird that on one hand we are told to lock down, follow COVID mandates and stuff, but it's okay to go protest and riot. Like what? That doesn't make any sense. And I think that's what woke up a lot of people too. I think that's why a lot of people end up walking away, because we get to walk away videos. But that's another topic. So the point is, there is clear circumstances. Like when you look at the circumstances at the time, how politicized this became, the political climate, the rioters, the threats of violence. There is just no way that Derek Chauvin is going to get a fair trial. And that Derek Chauvin does not need to be in prison for murder. And if he is guilty of anything at all, maybe he should already get like time served or something for whatever that, for maybe a little bit of police brutality or something. Maybe, if that. But I'm not sure if that is police brutality or what that would be considered. Like given the circumstances, I can see why they wouldn't take George Floyd's claim of not being able to breathe seriously. Okay? I mean, he's been acting very panicked throughout the body cam footage. You see him sitting in the back of the police car saying, "I can't breathe." Moments before he's on the ground. And the knee on his neck would not have constricted his breathing. I believe, was it Steven Crowder or... Yeah, I think it was Steven Crowder did an experiment with at that time to see if that would actually do that, to see if that would restrict breathing. And I don't think it did. So, it was a false narrative. Those charges were obviously politically motivated. Okay? It was obvious. There was no legitimate charges. Those charges were not legitimate. They were politicized. And any evidence against Chauvin, I believe, was falsified. I believe that the autopsy report, which supposedly confirms that Derek Chauvin did cause George Floyd's death. I believe that autopsy report is false. It's fake. But the problem is, there's no evidence for it, and I believe there's no evidence for it because there's no investigation. It's not been investigated. And I think there has to be some degree of evidence even before to even open an investigation. And I think that there should be enough circumstantial evidence to open a reinvestigation, to look into that circumstance, to investigate that police department, because potentially any evidence that could clear Chauvin's name could be suppressed by that police department, because because it's politically motivated. It's the left, it is the Democrats that's pushing these narratives, that is vilifying Derek Chauvin, that wanted Derek Chauvin in prison. That is a Democrat state, a Democrat-run state, a Democrat-run city. Very easy, given those circumstances. Also, the trial was the news was nationwide. So, given those circumstances, it is highly possible that the police falsified evidence and suppressed any evidence that could prove Chauvin is innocent and had nothing to do with George Floyd's death. Okay, any evidence that could clear his name is being suppressed because they have access to it. They have access to it, and only an investigation will uncover those evidence. So really, instead of being pardoned, the defense needs to find a way to get that overturned, have that investigated, given the circumstances at the time. Because I think that given the circumstances, the political climate, the threats of violence, and the potential for violence and rioting even after that, there was no way that Derek Chauvin got a fair trial and could have gotten a fair trial. No way whatsoever. There's just no way. So if pardoning him basically won't do no good, I mean, he was still serve over 20 years, then he doesn't need to be pardoned, because that won't do no good. That verdict needs to be overturned altogether. Both of them verdicts. All charges need to be dropped. Needs to be completely overturned. And I don't know if that's going to happen while the Democrats are in control of that city, of that state. Maybe that could be taken to the Supreme Court. But I don't know if Chauvin's defense could do that, or if it costs more money than he can afford, or what. But then again, if Carmelo Anthony's family could raise over $500,000, and if Charlotte Hendricks can raise over $500,000, I think slightly more than Carmelo Anthony, although Charlotte Hendricks seems to have a more legitimate reason for that money, even though it does not justify what she says. Okay? But nonetheless, if they can raise over $500,000, then surely somebody representing Derek Chauvin can start a Give, Send, Go, or a GoFundMe or something, so that they can raise money to take this to the Supreme Court. That might be the only way, if that's possible. I'll have to look into that. So those rumors have not been verified, and apparently it won't do any good anyways to pardon him, because he would still be in prison for over 20 years. Or, I think he was sentenced to over 20 years. So, I think it's been over 4 years, so I think he would still be in prison for about, 17 more years? Or does he have over 20 plus more years left? I don't remember. Okay, I got interrupted, and I edited that scene out by the time this video was posted. Lost my train of thought. So basically, if it's not going to do no good to pardon him, then maybe this should be overturned. And I don't see that happening unless they take it to the Supreme Court. and I don't know if that's gonna cost any money or if it's gonna be expensive or if they're able to raise a GoFundMe or something like that. Because if if Carmelo Anthony, whew, I have George Floyd in my mind. Trying to get into mixed up. If Carmelo Anthony and Charlotte Hendricks could raise over $500,000, then it should be simple. It should be easy to raise money if that's what they need to help Derek Chauvin have his they could get that verdict overturned. Okay? It should be easy to get that overturned. I mean, to get him to raise that money. Although I think in order to do that, though, like somebody representing Derek Chauvin would have to start a GoFundMe or something to get that started, get the ball rolling, and I don't think that's happened. So I don't know. But I think this needs to be taken to the Supreme Court. Because I can't see that I just can't see that happening in Minnesota. I can't see him getting released or a new trial or anything. I think there's a lot of bias against him in that area. There's a lot of bias. There's just no way he's getting a fair trial. None of that stuff. No way he had a fair trial to begin with. All those charges was politically motivated. If anything, maybe a little bit of police brutality, if anything at all, but I don't know about, I'm not 100% sure about that. But I could maybe see a case for, an argument for police brutality at best, because that knee did not cause his death at all. And any reports suggesting otherwise has to be fake, has to be falsified, even if it's on the official report. Because given that city and that state, it's just not possible for it to be fair. And that authenticity is must be verified, really, by an outside force. This must be investigated. Okay, an investigation must be conducted to find out what's going on behind closed doors, like to find out if any evidence is being suppressed, if the evidence presented is falsified. And I'm not sure if Derek's defense has any access to that. So, yeah, that is it for this video. Bye.